So welcome to this video. My name is Alex, and this video is about what do we do to address the fact that Satanism exists in our society and is much bigger than most people realize, much more widespread than we realize. And not only does it exist and is it growing, but it is now being sold to our children via the mainstream media, TV programs, books, films, and pop music. Pop music is especially being harnessed to spread some very dark messages. And if you don't believe that the media is being used to spread Satanism to children, then all you have to do is watch the video which is linked in the description of this video. It's called The Sinister Messages Reaching All Children. So that video is in the description. You only have to just watch that video after this one and you'll see that there is plenty of evidence. In fact, the video is full of evidence of how the media is trying to sell Satanism to our children in some of the most insane ways. So I really urge you to look at that. But it's most certainly happening. And this video is about what do we do about the fact that Satanism is promoting itself, or Satanism is growing. And there is plenty we can do. And I'm going to tell you exactly what we need to do. But the first thing to understand is we don't need to be afraid, because Satanism is nothing to be afraid of. Satanism is about fear itself. So Satanists will be some of the most fearful people you'll ever meet. Hopefully you'll never meet any of them, but Satanists are incredibly fearful people. They live in the darkness, they live in fear. They're most terrified of all things of God. And you wouldn't think a Satanist believes in God. But generally they do. They know that God is real, because the satanic religion is a rebellion against God. Satan is a very real spiritual force. And I know that from personal experience. And so when people worship Satanism, they're not just making something up, they're actually experiencing the dark power that Satan brings. And Satan is about rebellion against God. Everything Satan does, everything Satan tries to encourage people to do is about spiting God, rebelling against God, hating God. That's why Satanism is about doing everything that is a defilement of the human heart and the human soul. Because God wants us to value and realize the value of our own soul, and to really experience the beauty and the perfection and the light of our own soul, and to have a relationship with Him. But Satanism is the opposite. Satanism wants you to treat yourself like trash, like you're worthless, like defile yourself, treat yourself like you belong in the gutter, just treat yourself like dirt, basically. And Satanists treat their victims like, they torture them, they treat them like animals, Satanists rely on abuse. They get their pleasure from abuse, from torture, from drinking blood. People think these are just stories, these are just things you read about or see in magazines or see on TV programs and films. But Satanists do these things. And anyone who's done any research into Satanism, and I've been researching it for 15 years, so I know a lot about it, and I'm somewhat of an expert in this field. So anyone who does any research on Satanism will know that Satanists do the worst things imaginable, the most horrific, cruel, gruesome, and disgusting things you can imagine. Those are the practices of Satanists. That's what Satanists do in worship. They are like a religion, and I've written an article about this which you can read on my website. I'll give you the link in the description. But Satanism is a religion, and they have religious practices, and their practices bring in the dark energy of Satan. It's almost like they invoke the dark energy of Satan with these dark pleasures, these sadistic, cruel pleasures. So it's like, you call it a dark pleasure. Satanists try and invoke this dark pleasure by doing the worst things possible, things that they know are bad, the things they know are cruel and unholy, because it invokes this dark pleasure, the presence of Satan. So obviously, you can learn more about the psychology of Satanism by reading the link in the description, because it's really important to understand the psychology of Satanists and what it is, what is their agenda, because there are a lot of them. It's a big organized kind of underground religion, and it's like the underbelly of our society. You'll find Satanists really in the dark places, after dark at night, in dark parties, doing dark things, and usually involves exploitation and cruelty and abuse, or drugs, drugging people and doing horrible things to them, taking advantage of vulnerable people and torturing them. So, I don't know if you really need to know all about this, but what we do need to know about is what we do about them. What do we do about this growing threat that Satanism is growing? This is a very serious threat to our society and a very serious threat to our children, because as I said, Satanism is being sold as cool in the mainstream media. There's a program called The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix, which is all about Satanism, and it paints Satanism in a good light and shows it as empowering and liberating for young women in their fight against the patriarchy. And that's a children's program. That's for 13-year-old girls and over, and it's the most disturbing, dark and violent program that you can ever imagine. People, when they write reviews about this program, they say they couldn't even watch. These adults say they couldn't even watch because it was so disgusting. People getting their throats slit, cannibalism. And this is for 13-year-old girls and over. Then you look at Billie Eilish and the messages in her songs. I don't know if you've seen any of the videos she made, but a lot of them have some very, very dark messages. And she sings about Lucifer by name. She sings about him, and she sings about selling her soul to the devil. And her videos are very, very dark, and they're meant to be because she's being used to promote Satanism in the mainstream media, because this is the agenda, to get the young people into Satanism. And the Satanic Temple, it's an organization which are promoting themselves as anti-authoritarian, anti-dogma, and pro-civil rights, pro-human rights, pro-freedom. And so they're on a PR campaign. They even released a film last year called Hail Satan. And they they justified it as kind of like a mockumentary, kind of a jokey documentary about Satanism, but it's actually intended to promote Satanism as a cool thing. Now, I don't recommend you watch it. I'm not going to watch it because I know what Satanists are like, and I know what they're up to, and I know what their agenda is. And it's something we don't want in our society. It will crumble the very walls of our society, and all that we know is good and decent and brings joy and happiness and peace to the world. The Satanists want to destroy that. And Satanism is practiced in some very high places by some very powerful people. And a lot of people are afraid of dealing with it, afraid of looking at it, afraid of shining a light on it, because the organization, the whole, what would you say, the whole satanic movement, which has been underground for a long time, has promoted itself with the help of film and TV as terrifying, like you're in great danger. You're in great danger if you shine a light, or if you even go anywhere near exposing Satanism, you're in great danger. But that's only if you're afraid, because you use fear. Satanists use fear. The satanic movement is all about spreading fear. And the reason they do that is because spreading fear spreads darkness in the human heart. And when there is darkness in the human heart, then that's when people are vulnerable to demonic attack, which is very real. Demonic attacks are very, very real. People, you can watch hundreds of testimonies on YouTube about people who've actually experienced demonic attacks. I know they're very real. And it all starts with bringing human heart into darkness, sowing fear in the human heart, getting them afraid, scared, vulnerable. And then the heart is not capable, or is not connected to the light. It's not connected to God. It has no foundation, no kind of anchor to the light. And so when the heart is weak and vulnerable in the darkness, that's when these kind of attacks happen, or when Satan kind of steps in and tries to tempt people into his way of doing things, which is the way of darkness, the way of misery, the way of cruelty and oppression. I could go on, but we have to do something. It's not going to go away. It's not going to disappear if we just pretend, oh, it's not a real problem. It's a very real problem. Satanic ritual abuse is a very real problem. You just have to watch any videos by Wilfred Wong on YouTube. And he's probably the UK's leading expert on satanic ritual abuse. He's been doing it for 27 years. And he's a great man doing very good work. You just have to listen to him, and you'll get the idea that Satanism is widespread, and it's happening in some very powerful places. Police, government, you name it. It's the underbelly of society that everyone keeps quiet about, but it is there and it is growing, and it is now spreading out via the media to our children. And again, just look at that video in the description if you don't believe me. So here's what we do about it. It's quite simple. We do what the Satanists least want us to do about it. We shine a light on it. We shine a light on it. They do not want a light shone on them. You know this idea of vampires, that vampires are scared of the light, scared of daylight. Vampires are actually the most accurate portrayal of Satanists we have in our media culture. The vampire drinks blood. Satanists do indeed drink blood. The vampire is often wears red and black, like a red and black cloak or robe. Satanists often wear red and black. It's the most popular color in Satanism, and you'll see that if you watch the video in the description, that Satanism is often connected to red and black. Satanists, vampires are scared of the cross. You know this idea of scaring away a vampire by doing that, scaring away the vampire with a crucifix. Well, Satanists hate Jesus. I mean, they're terrified of Jesus, because Satan is under the authority of Jesus, and they hate Jesus because he symbolizes purity. And Satanism is all about impurity and defiling the body, defiling the soul, defiling everything that God's given us in an act of total rebellion against God. So Satanists hate Jesus and they hate Christianity. That's why vampires are said to hate the cross, because Satanists hate the cross. And of course, like I just said, vampires hate daylight. They only come out at night. Satanists are the same. They often practice their practices and rituals at night time, in the dark, behind locked doors, out in the woods. Satanists hate daylight and they hate being exposed. They want to remain in the darkness, in the shadows. They want to pull people in to the shadows. And that's why they're selling darkness to the young people via the internet and by the pop industry and all sorts of different avenues. They're selling darkness to the young people because they want to pull people in to their dark world. And a lot of this is done by fear, spreading negative energy, spreading anger. So as I said, we shine a light on them. We don't let them run away. We go after them. We go after the Satanists. And this is the last thing they want. They want you to be so afraid of Satanism that you turn your back on it and you walk away and you pretend it isn't real. They terrify you with stories and images and ideas that make you want to forget about Satanism, that make you want to believe it's not real, because that's how they remain, how they carry on, how they continue their practices and how they continue to exist. It's because society does not want to look at them. But it's the only solution. It's the only solution to rid Satanism from our society. And that is my mission. Of course, I'm one man and I'll hopefully not be on my own. I'm not on my own, in fact. There are many people tackling this. So I'm not on my own, but my mission is to rid society of Satanism. And I'm going to do whatever I can and shine as much light as I can on the Satanists and on what they're doing and how they try and hide from us, so that they cannot hide. Because when the Satanists cannot hide, when the light is shone upon them, then people will see who they are and what they do, and people will see that they are the enemy of all that is good in our society. They want cruelty, they want torture, they want to punish people, they want to create suffering and pain and trauma in their victims, most of which are young children. They prey on the young, they prey on the vulnerable. Satanists are cowards. Satanists are absolute cowards, sniveling cowards who prey on the weakest members of our society, children and people who have been kind of dealt a poor hand by society. Satanists prey on those people, the vulnerable, because they're cowards and they hide from the light. So the best thing we can do, the most important thing we can do, is shine a light on the Satanists and how they are propagating themselves, how they're trying to propagate the satanic religion and satanic beliefs and interest in Satanism, how they're doing that through the media, because it's happening through the media. So you need to watch the video in the description called The Sinister Messages Reaching All Children. Did you know that in August 2019, The Guardian released an article called "Are Satanists Now the Good Guys in the Fight Against the Evangelical Right?" Are Satanists now the good guys? And the tagline, or the second headline, was, "Has the time come to rehabilitate the Dark Lord?" That was an article in The Guardian, and it sounds like a joke, but it wasn't a joke. They were painting Satanists as possibly being the good guys, as possibly being beneficial to our society, and that the Christians are the bad guys. Now, if you know, I mean, this is typical of what Satanism is about. Satanism is about inverting everything that we instinctively know is good, everything we instinctively know is good or bad, and inverting it and swapping them around so that the good becomes bad and the bad becomes good, and kind of confusing people by putting out stories like this, that Satanists might be the good guys. All you have to do is research Satanism for half an hour and you'll see that Satanism are the worst. They are the bad guys. So the fact that a mainstream newspaper can publish an article saying, are Satanists now the good guys? Has the time come to rehabilitate the Dark Lord? Just shows you how things are progressing, and the fact that that article can be released in The Guardian and it's not all over the newspapers, it's not, people aren't up in arms about this article, because the society we live in now, to a great degree, is permissive of Satanism, because Satanists are in the media. There's a lot of satanic practice, satanic practitioners, Satanists essentially, in the media. And why is that? Because media people are often more liberated, more liberal. They're more free with their morals, with their beliefs. And Satanism is the rebellion against all morals, all moral standpoints, all ideas of what is good and what is bad. Satanism is in direct opposition to all value judgments about what is good and what is bad. And so when people get into this grey area where, maybe I can just get into this devious practice and it's okay, and it leads to something else and it leads to something else, and before long, people who just wanted to dabble in something kind of a little bit naughty or dodgy, or have found themselves involved in some really horrific things which they can't escape from. People get roped into Satanism through the media. Famous people get roped into Satanism. They discover that Satanism is rife, and once they discover this, once they uncover this, they can't escape, because they would no doubt lose their life, as has happened so many times with young pop singers who have died, young pop singers who have just been found mysteriously dead, even older pop singers, in their 50s having heart attacks. It's because Satanism is rife, and the people who don't do what the Satanists want are often disposed of. Satanism only thrives in the dark. It thrives in secret, and so the best thing we can do is shine a light upon it. So that's what I'm going to be doing with my videos from now onwards, and that's what I'm really going to be focusing on, and that's what I think we should all focus on, is alerting people to the presence of this great threat which is reaching out for our children, for everyone. Satanism is a cancer. It's like the worst form of cancer, which is spreading throughout humanity, spreading darkness, spreading dark thoughts, dark beliefs, dark desires. It's spreading rapidly, and it wants to infect all of our young children, all the young people, and it's doing this via the media. So what I recommend you do now is watch the video in the description called The Sinister Messages Reaching All Children, and then please share that video. That's the one thing I'm asking you to do to help me here, is to share that video that's in the description with people you know who have children, with parents, and with parents whose kids watch the media, especially Netflix, because Netflix is one of the main perpetrators for these dark messages in the media. Many others, HBO, Netflix, Hulu. There's so many programs, channels, films, pop music. It's very widespread, as you'll see when you watch the video. So please share it. Thank you for listening. I wish you well, and God bless you.